Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to bring this beautiful swan painting into life with the paint. So now let's get started. To create a range of green shade, we will start by mixing black, phthalo green and lemon yellow. Let's begin by mixing black and phthalo green to produce our darkest green shade. Next we will mix phthalo green and lemon yellow to achieve medium green shade. To add warmth to this medium shade, we will introduce a touch more lemon yellow, creating a medium warm green shade. Now let's take this medium warm green shade and blend it with even more lemon yellow to produce a light greenish yellow shade. So this will be our lightest green, completing our range of greens. In step 1 we will be painting the forest. So here I am going to use the color darkest green shade. So you can use the color in the bottom and also in the top of the canvas like this. So here I am using my masking tape. So I suggest you to use this masking tape. And now let's take this medium shade of green. So I am going to apply this color in the remaining space. So this is the background of our forest. So I am going to just let it dry. Then take a hot bristle brush and I'm going to add the leaf foliage effect. So we are going to just tap the color on the canvas like this. So I'm going to first use the color medium shade of green. So once you have applied the color medium shade of green here and there, then you can add more colors. And in this forest we are going to add different range of green. So we are going to add some dark shades of green, and then we will be adding some medium green, and then we will be adding some lightest green for the highlights. So first I'm going to apply this medium shade of green for the base, and it is really easy. You can use a dry flat brush or hot bristle brush. So now I am using the color warm shade of green. So you can use the color warm shade of green by mixing green with lemon yellow, and it is really easy to add the leaf foliage effect. All you have to do is take some hot bristle brush, or you can use a hawk hair brush. So it will be really easy for you to produce this type of effect. And if you want more clarity, then you can do some practice in a rough paper. And you can see here I am using a hot bristle brush. This brush will greatly simplify your painting process, making it easier to achieve professional looking result with minimal effort. Now I am adding the highlights to the leaf foliage using the lightest green shade we mixed earlier, and I am carefully applying this shade to the tips and corners of the leaves and branches, creating a subtle accents that enhance the overall texture and diamonds of the leaf foliage. To further enhance the leaf foliage, I am switching to a detailing brush to add delicate and textured details by carefully placing small leaf-like dots along the edges of the leaf foliage. So I am creating a more intricate and high definition appearance that it adds depth and visual interest to this painting. Now let's move on to painting the lake. We will start by applying the darkest shade of green to the top and the bottom of the canvas. And here I am using my big flat brush to add the colors on the canvas. So I am just start by mixing the color phthalo green with the black to have this dark shade of green, and I am applying this color here, and you can see the color is really dark. Next we will add the medium shade of green to the middle of the lake, subtly gradating the colors to evoke a sense of realism. And in the bottom we will be adding the darkest shade of green. By layering these different shades of green, we will achieve a captivating three-dimensional effect that draws the viewer's eyes to this painting. Now let's capture the stunning reflection of the leaf foliage in the lake. So to start, I am mixing a medium shade of green by combining phthalo green with a lemon yellow. Using a flat brush, I will use downward brush strokes followed by a gentle horizontal brush stroke to softly blend the colors. So it is really easy. Just apply the downward brush strokes now. And now you can apply the horizontal brush strokes and we are going to blend them together. So it will create a beautiful reflection of the lake, and in the forest we have different range of green shades, so we are going to apply them. By adding these different shades of green in the lake surface, we will add the sense of depth and dimensionality in this lake painting. And you can see I am applying this light shade of green only in a few places. We are not going to add them all the entire canvas. And you can see now I am applying the darkest shade of green in between them, so it will create the beautiful effect of reflection of the forest. Now we are adding the subtle ripples on the water surface, so I am mixing the color phthalo green with the white to have the lightest shade of green, and we are adding the long sweeping line using a small flat brush to convey the movements in the water. I will carefully apply this long sweeping brush strokes to convey a sense of movement in our water. To add depth and dimension to the ripples, we will use a layered approach. First, we will use the lightest shade of green to establish the gentle movement of the water. Now we will apply the medium shade of green to add a textured and variations to the ripples, and this will create a sense of flow in our painting. Finally, we will use the darkest shade of green to add the shadows and depth to the ripples, giving our paint a sense of more realistic and immersive quality. Now let's move on to paint the swans. So I am carefully drawing the outline of the swan. So now let's see the colors we need to paint the swan. First, apply the color white for the base color. To add the shadow and the lights in the body of the swan, we are mixing the color cerulean blue with the white and a pinch of black to have a light grayish blue shade, and we are using this grayish blue shade to add the shadows on the body of the swan. And now let's mix the color black, white and lemon yellow, and first we are adding this grayish yellow shade here to add the shadow in the wings. And now we are adding some white to blend the color, and you can see the beautiful shadow on the other side of the wing. Now we are going to take this light grayish shade of blue to add the shadow. So first I am adding the shadow on the bottom of the body, also in the side of the neck where I find the shadows in my reference, and I am gradually adding some white to this light grayish blue shade to make it lighter, and we are adding this lighter where we find some lights in the body. So to paint the darkest area, that is the shadow in the body, we are adding the light grayish shade, and to paint the lights in the body we are adding more white to this mixture to make it little lighter, and we are adding them. So now you can see the beautiful shadow and the lights in the body of the swan. So it is really easy to paint. In the side of the neck also we are using the light grayish blue shade, and in the another side of the neck we can add some yellowish shade. So here we have the color yellow white mixed with the grayish yellow shade, and we are adding this grayish yellow on the other side of the neck, also in the face, and in the face we need to add more details. So here I am using the color white to add the highlights To paint the peak, next mix the color red with yellow and we are adding the peak here. So in this point you need to be really careful. So it is a very detailed one, so I am using the tip of my detailing brush to add the minute details, and I am covering some details in the peak by adding the color black. And now let's add the color light shade of grey on the top of the peak to add the highlights in the peak. Let's mix the color black and white to have a medium shade of grey to paint the beautiful baby swans. So first we are applying the color medium shade of grey and then we are adding a little white to make it little lighter, and we are blending them together, and we have the beautiful and realistic look in our painting. To paint the neck we are using the darkest shade of grey by mixing a pinch more black, and we are using this dark color for the neck and also in the face. To make it even more interesting, we are adding a light shade of grey in the other side of the neck, and we are going to blend this light shade of grey with the dark shade of grey we applied earlier to have the realistic look in the baby swan's face. To create the highlights in the other side of the neck, we are adding the lightest shade of grey. And we can use the color black to paint the peak, and in this baby swan painting we are not going to add more details like we have added more details in the big swan earlier. Now we are adding one more swan. Let's imagine this is the mother swan. So first I am going to apply the color white for the base, and you can see it is really easy. Now let's mix the color black, white and pinch of cerulean blue to have a lightest shade of greyish cerulean blue, and we are adding such details in this body of the swan. So first we have to apply a greyish color for the wings. So it is really easy, just add some few patterns like this, and we are going to add more details here later. And in the part where the body touches the water we are adding the shadow. So here we have the color black and I am adding the shadow here. You will get the image in the description, so check the description to get the link for the image. Now we are adding the shadow and details in the neck, so we have to mix the color black, white and cerulean to have a dark greyish shade of cerulean, and we are adding this color in the side of the neck like this. Now let's mix some white to make it little lighter, and we are adding the light shade of color in the side of the neck, also in the face. Now let's use the color black to add the shadow, also the peak. So I'm using the tip of my detailing brush, and now let's mix the color yellow and red, and we are adding the color in the peak. And add a pinch of white to this mixture to have a light shade of red, and we are adding this color to add the highlights in the peak. Now we are adding the reflection of the swans in the surface of the lake. So first mix the color cerulean blue and white to have a light shade of blue, and we are adding the same long sweeping lines to add the reflection. So first I am going to just add the lines like this, so it will mimic the shape of the swans. I recommend you to use this small flat brush to draw the long sweeping lines, because the small flat brush has some pointed and flat heads, so it will be really easy for you to add the lines by using them. To add the shadow on the body of the swans in the surface of the lake, we are adding the color cerulean blue with black and white, so we have to add a pinch more black to make it little darker, and we are adding the shadows on the body of the swan, and we are adding the reflections here. Now I am using the tip of my detailing brush to add the minute details in the painting. After 6 hours of pouring my heart and soul into this painting, I am so excited to see the final result, and please leave your thoughts and comments about this painting. I will meet you guys with another beautiful painting in my next video. Until then, have fun with colors.